There you go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Swords, Boards and Beards, episode 5. It's where you cheer, gentlemen.
Hey!
We made it to episode 5.
We need that canned laughter or canned cheering.
And we are here back after what seems like a while. We preloaded behind the scenes a bunch of episodes and we haven't recorded in a while, so it's nice to come back. Hey, bin gents.
Very well.
Good. Should introduce ourselves. I'm Adam.
I'm Adam. And I'm Jace.
We're here to talk about all the geek shit that we love. Excuse me, frog in the throat has joined us this morning. Yes, how has life been? What news from the...
What news from the Western Front, sir? No, good. We assigned homework last episode, and I have a homework report.
Why do I look like the teacher all this? I feel like I'm the bad...
Because you assigned it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
Or
what
did I
I
sign
think
it?
my voice just
God.
unbroke. You did it because you were hosting that episode.
Yeah,
so,
alright.
Okay.
I eat my words.
Eat my words, Adam.
Yeah.
That's his name for the...
There we go.
No, I think it might have actually been you, other Adam.
Ha ha ha.
I think you might have.
I think this is the ganging up on me. That's fine, I've done
It's a group
mine.
effort.
So it's fine. So we'll come to homework in a minute. Because we'll look at that. Because last week we looked at Fallout and all things Wasteland and discovering not just the game. Sorry, not just it came out of the show because the show was released on Amazon that we were enjoying, and then we revisited the games, which a lot of people have done. I'm going to come to Jace about that in a second, because the pre-recording conversation while we were making coffee was fascinating. But also we looked at the board game, which I own. It's glorious, one of my favourite board games. And we then discovered obviously there is an RPG, tabletop RPG. And also a miniatures game as well. So we set ourselves some homework to actually look at it. Why not? Let's do that now because it's on the agenda.
Yeah, who needs an agenda?
Who needs an agenda? Who needs a playlist? A thing. So having set ourselves some homework, thank you. What we set, I'll take the credit then.
Please
for the
do.
homework. I told myself that I would look at the RPG, the tabletop RPG. We asked Jace to finish the show because at the time he hadn't. And we asked you, Adam, to look at the miniatures games.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones we hadn't explored properly because they were kind of new in our brains, or newer to our brains. Who wants to give the homework report first?
Yeah, why not?
Go on.
Finish the show, right? Easiest homework out of the lot.
Yeah, you had to watch
I was gonna be
TV.
doing it anyway. Because I'd only seen episode 1 when we recorded the podcast, and wow, what a rollercoaster! Absolutely fantastic. And I was quite critical at the beginning.
You are with all things, Jace.
Yes, I am. I was quite critical because I could see the beginnings of a lot of ridiculous plot holes. Luckily, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that the showrunners wrapped most of them up very organically.
Well, I remember in the last episode, you were like, yeah, this is, there's some plot holes, and I think both of us said at one point, just stick with it. Things will be explained.
I think I'm so used to modern media leaving those plot holes in and just being like, nah, just, doesn't matter. It just
Somehow,
works.
Palpatine returns.
Do you know what? I'm wondering now as I think about this. Do you think it's that TV shows want to hope for season 2
Yes.
where they can explain stuff, and if they're axed, then it's like, what's this crap?
Yeah, I'd said yes instantly there, but actually no, I don't. I think it's poor writing.
Okay.
I just think it's poor writing.
What's
But that's an entirely different
No,
subject.
what's interesting is, as on your homework point, there's an article this week where they talked about the fact that season 2 is going to continue on from season 1, which sounds ridiculous, but obviously in the Fallout games, you play as a completely different character each game.
You do.
And I would be surprised if they didn't stick with Walton Goggins and they didn't stick with those characters that they had, particularly because, he is glorious as the ghoul. He's glorious in everything. But I would be surprised if they didn't choose to do that. But they could have done it like, what is it called? Like American Horror Story, which either the same actors doing something,
different characters.
Halfway through watching the series when it was, premiering and things, I was kind of under the impression that is each series going to be a completely different vault in a completely different part of America, and and a brand new set of characters. I'm pleasantly surprised to see they're continuing.
And actually glad because they are really
existing
good
group.
actors. And I even by the end, because I found, and I can't remember his name, who's the dude in the power armor?
Maximus.
Couldn't stand at the beginning.
I was just about to say this. He quite swiftly, especially near the end, became one of my favourite
Yeah,
characters.
at
in
the
show.
beginning it's like you're just irritating, and it's not him as an actor. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but the character's like, I'm not interested in you. Go back to X. Go back to Y.
But didn't he show some wonderful dynamic growth?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. So, it's such good writing. The Ghoul was exactly what you needed right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And stayed true. And if anything, it became just a tad bit more human
Yeah.
at the end of the series. Brilliant. Slow progression.
Maximus played by Aaron Moten. Yes,
Listen.
very well. And Lucy played by Ella Pennell. As you can see, I have IMDb in my
I
hand.
did not realise she was English until I saw an interview with her.
She's brilliant. She's fantastic.
She's in Yellow Jackets as well. Which
Never
if, you,
seen.
if you've never, it's on Paramount Plus. Very good. So. And
But anyway, yes, my homework was to finish the show, and I'm happy to say that it's one of the best bits of TV I've seen for quite some time. And it was very faithfully done. It felt like I was in the Fallout universe. Nothing jarred me. Nothing in it made me go, that's not Fallout.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. The attention to detail, the fan service, but not so gratuitous that it was like, oh, this is fun.
Look over here. I'm going to come to that in a second. The fan service for a different reason, because what was interesting. You're absolutely right on that front. Because this is absolute sidebar. Watched the new Alien trailer this week,
Me too.
and
I did too.
I'm excited. I'm tentative because every Alien trailer I go yes, and then I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
But this one, it's like, do you remember this bit from Alien 3 where the alien comes close up to the face, and it felt like they would do the fan service thing? That's the trailer people, because it's different people cut the trailer to cut the film.
Yeah.
So I'm not slagging the film off yet, but it did feel. Do you remember those lights that flash? Do you remember the sound effect they use? And it was like, okay, but that's fine because that's what will draw the audience in. And then I felt ancient. I was having a conversation with a friend who went, it's all the stuff for those beats that you remember. And I go, yes, but the 20-year-olds don't remember it because they weren't alive at the time. And then I felt ancient because I realised they're not trying to market it to me anymore.
Not for you.
It fucking should be. Anyway, but the fact you're right, from a fan service point of view, it didn't feel shoehorned. Look at this thing. Look, even when they went to Philly, and it's clearly a take on Diamond City.
Yes.
Their take on Diamond City, which was beautifully rendered. In fact, my son said to me, "Is this Diamond City?" And I went, "No. But yeah, absolutely, it's where they've got their." And it was just like, well done. And even the humour, the chicken fucking guy,
Oh, fantastic.
which the stupid people you come across in the games, and
It's-
it just had the right tone. It was silly, it was crass,
Well,
but it
he's
also
the Wild Wastelander
Yeah.
perk straight out of that. I mean, that is him.
Yeah.
But I think massive spoilers ahead, so don't listen.
yeah.
to the next-
If you've not watched it yet, this is where you press pause
Yeah,
for the next
massive.
skip forward like 60 seconds.
Massive spoiler coming up. The fact that his quack like snake oil seller Western vibe doctor worked. Although clearly has turned him into a ghoul,
Yeah.
but still really cool.
Oops. Right, you can listen again now.
Spoiler over.
If you listen to us ramble through that.
So yeah, solid 5 out of 7 from me. Very good.
A solid 5 out. That's a really random statistical number.
People who know me that listen to this some people that know me that listen to this, mainly my wife, will know
A
what
5
that
out of
means.
7. I'm going to use
Well,
that
that's
now.
a bit
out
of news as
context.
well, isn't it? You legally got married.
I did. I am now chained, cuffed. No, it was a
Not where I was going with it, but fair enough.
No, I did. But my proper marriage, so to speak, like the ceremony.
The big
part,
pie.
It's coming up in a couple of months, but we
Very
have
excited.
the legal system here, and the times available to book in are criminally ridiculous. So we got the legal bit done quite early. Didn't mean to, but there you go. But it was lovely.
Good.
I have a wedding ring and everything.
I know, right?
Not the proper one I'll be wearing, just a placeholder.
Nice.
Placeholder.
Indeed.
Very nice.
Anyway,
Yeah. My homework was to check out the RPG, which I did a little bit of digging, and I had a little read through. What I've decided, it looks really interesting, and I know you prefer a different version.
I do.
But I'm not reviewing the different version, so I'm reviewing this version. And my knowing that you were like, I prefer this, it's like, okay, but I had a look. It is really interesting. 2D20 system where you have to roll. Basically, if whatever you're trying to do, so I got some examples. Playing the Wasteland, obviously very linked to Fallout, as you would hope. So you're always trying to roll whatever your target number is. If you've got to stealth, where did I write my? There we go. So if you've got a stealth check, sneak check, you're trying to make, You would be combining your agility and your sneak numbers that you've built on your character sheet.
Okay.
And that's your target number. So if you've got an agility of 6 and a sneak of 1, you're trying to get to 7. You're trying to roll under 7 every time. But it doesn't mean it's not. I misremembered wrong. You're not trying to roll under 7 on those 2 dice. You're trying to get a 7 or below. So the more dice you roll, the more chance you've got to succeed, because you've got more. It doesn't matter if one of them's 20. Doesn't matter.
Just one of those dice need to be below 7.
So if one's 16, doesn't matter as long as one's under 7. Now the GM can increase the difficulty by saying you need 2 successes.
I see.
Which is in their game called, and I've written it down again because I'm that guy who forgets the specifics. No, I didn't write it down. That's stupid. Difficulty rating, I did write it down. So he may say difficulty rating for this is 3, so you need 3 successes, and if you've only got 2 dice, you're screwed. But you can spend different ways of getting more dice, etc. So that's interesting. Obviously, you got a critical success where you automatically succeed. If you roll a 1, clearly the opposite of D&D, you get what is the equivalent of a critical fumble in Cthulhu. Where if you roll a 20, which is the opposite clearly of what you want, that can be a problem. That can add complications. So you're always going to get a complication. Doesn't mean you fail.
Just an added complication.
Yeah, and depending on how hard the situation is, a fumble might be as low as 16. The GM gets to set that.
I see.
So a standard complication might be, yes, there's like when we've played Blaze in the Dark, yeah, you succeed, but there's also something goes wrong. They hear you.
Yeah.
You pick the lock, and your lock breaks. Your lockpick breaks.
You open it, but you're never going to be able to close it again.
You get to spend luck, which is cool. When you acquire luck points to discover something useful, you get to use luck attribute on your skill test instead of your skill for that thing, if your luck's good. But you have to have the points to spend. You get lucky timing, so you can move up in initiative to beat the bad guy if you've got the luck points to spend.
That's pretty cool.
And you get to re-roll a d20 in combat. Skill test or combat, but you have to take the new result. And then the other thing, which is kind of cool, is action points, where you acquire action points to accrue the dice that you might need to achieve your goal. If it's a difficulty of 3 and you've only got 2 dice to roll, you can obtain information from the GM, very much similar in D&D style, when there is, what's the spell where you cast
Legend Legends or Legend Lore.
Or the divine one.
You can't. There's one, and I can't remember what it's called, where you can seek out information, and the GM can't lie, or the person can't. They don't have to tell you necessarily.
Zone of truth.
They can technical truth you.
Yeah. So it's that
or
kind
they
of
can
vibe.
Just not talk.
You can take additional actions. You can reduce time you can spend luck if you need to do something quickly. And I thought it was really interesting, and the complications are interesting the higher the stakes get. So the example I found online, if you try and disarm a bomb and the complication happens, the clock starts ticking twice as fast.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe, which you've done for us in Blaze in the Dark, like you've got half the time.
It skips a few.
So it reminds me, the problem is with these, when you play enough role-playing games, you start to see, it's this kind of game. And you get it. Like with board games, you've got the worker placement board games where you're literally resource management and you're moving around the board and just, I need to accrue this and accrue this. And then you've got your dungeon crawl board games like Betrayal on the House on the Hill or Hellboy, where you or Darkest Dungeon. It's clearly a dungeon crawl where you move in, deal with the room, move along. And
Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is very much will fit in. This won't float everyone's boat, depending on what you want, because it might not be everyone's vibe. If you don't, I've discovered I'm not a dungeon crawl guy from playing for years.
Dungeon and Mage.
See, I can't even remember. I DM not because I don't like, but it's like it. I want something that's different. I want variety, which is why I took my players out of the dungeon when I DM'd it. Doesn't mean it's not good for everyone, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. Whereas I know,
Well, we will talk about that later.
Well, no. So with my homework, do it now. So you were looking into it too, just out of shits and giggles.
I did. So for
what did you not like about the Modiphius game? What was it that put you off?
Exactly what you've just said.
Everything that I just said.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think stacking dice is a good system.
Okay.
Sometimes it is, but I don't think you should be stacking d20s. I think that's silly. That's arbitrary. Just stack d6s or d4s.
What's the difference? Because in a d20, all you're trying to do, a d6, you're trying to get to a 6, right? So you've got multiple choices.
It's easier.
to get
It's
a 6.
easier on the player. It's faster. It's easier on the player. You're looking for 6s. You're looking for 2 6s. Brilliant. Whereas on the other hand, the system that they've done is you're looking for a specific number on 1 out of 4 D20s that you've just chucked across the table.
Says the Warhammer man.
Making dice in Warhammer is a thing, and I will not hear against it. I have an orc player sat next to me who knows this all too well, rolling 80 dice.
We did the other night. It was like bucket hands. He
But
couldn't
no,
do it.
Do it in batches, never do it in batches.
Unfortunately, it's a good system, but then for those of you listening, if you're into D&D, you may already know of XP to level 3, that YouTuber, Jacob.
Fantastic chap.
Uncanny resemblance to my son.
Oh god, yeah.
He released his own Fallout system
Okay.
based on the D&D system, and I do mean based on 5th edition. He's ripped it to bits, but he's kept some core bits. It's superb.
Okay.
And unfortunately, after seeing that and then looking into the official, if you like, doesn't hold a candle to it.
Okay.
Really genuinely doesn't. And yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Fair
I'm
enough.
Very critical.
No, and that's absolutely valid. What's interesting is I decided at the end, because I've decided, as I was saying this briefly before we pressed record, that I am very much of the mindset now of each their own, whatever floats your boat.
Oh, absolutely.
Boat. And so with me, and knowing we'd had a brief conversation about you preferred X, and I don't prefer either. Until you play it, you won't know anyway.
No, that's very true.
And so you kind of go, oh, I can see how this works. I understand that this is what they're going for, blah, blah, blah. But actually I like, and in playing both, you might find the version you discover, some of it's brilliant, some of it isn't, and some of this is brilliant, and an amalgamation. And then you're kind of stuck with neither are perfect, but this bit's good at that one. Anyway, so each their own. But we did our homework, so that's my report. It exists. I'll be fascinated to play it at some point, which won't happen because of life. it might happen.
You never know.
But I've got games set on the shelf that gathering dust.
So Minecraft, Adam, what did you...
Minecraft?
World building, mate.
Oh, okay. I've never ever played Minecraft. Right,
Right, no,
okay,
that name is
fine.
stuck now beyond this episode.
Great.
MC Adam.
Brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Love it. Okay, so my homework was to look into the miniatures game for Fallout, and it's done by Mephidius as well.
Yep.
I originally misspoke at the beginning and said there was 2 miniature games. There is one, but they're split into different sort of sub-games.
Do you know what's fascinating? Because when I did my own little looking, I thought there were 2 as well, without talking to you.
Well, I saw one advertised and thought, oh, it's just called Nuka World. No, that is the next sort of expansion module of the overarching continuing game.
Is it Wolf? What's it?
Wasteland Warfare
That's
is
the
what
word.
it's called. It's resin-based miniatures. And what's interesting about it is it's either solo played, or co-op played, or PvP played.
Okay, that's
There's 3
cool.
ways to do it, and you can run it alongside the RPG. So you can.
I did wonder because there's only one GM's, or there's lots of. It looks like this is the products that come with it.
That's interesting.
So you can run it alongside the.
So your battles that you would have in the
yeah.
game and the RPG are the
But the battles, unlike things like Warhammer and things like that, it's not massive armies and
more
things.
kill team, isn't it?
Similar. It's 3 to 30 miniatures. That's it
per team or on the board.
on the board.
Wow. Okay.
So excuse my phone's buzzing while on the table. But yeah, so it's 3 to 30 miniatures. But these include characters, monsters, raiders, and you choose what you're playing as. So you could be playing as a group of raiders, you could be playing as a lone vault dweller, as a single character who has like heroic abilities and things like that. You could be playing as Swan the super mutant.
Okay, that's awesome.
That's a miniature. The miniatures look glorious. Of course, on the website they're all done up to lovely pictures and things. Looking into it, they are resin based. So yeah, Jace is pulling a face, as we know from 40k and Games Workshop stuff. Resin based is not
being
nice as
ignorant.
plastic.
It's so I've played Warhammer clearly, and I've played with D&D and painted D&D miniatures. What are D&D miniatures? Because I know what Warhammer ones are.
D&D are not resin. They are.
Worse than?
Well, I can't remember the exact name. It depends what D&D miniatures you can get.
Nosler's Marvellous Miniatures.
Yeah, those
If
ones.
you get the good ones, the ones that are based on Citadels
Yeah.
and Games Workshop's models, which are the sort of like polystyrene style
Yeah.
plastic, which is rigid yet quite flexible.
Yeah.
It's a very unique plastic. It's very good. The stuff that you tend to get for board games is bendy, and it comes out of the box, and you've got to dip it in hot water and then hold the sword straight until it, bends back
freezes
into
place.
A lot of board games have this style of stuff,
Right.
which is fine because they can get high detail, but yeah, that's fine. It is what it is. It's workable. Sometimes they're a bit of an arse to paint.
Because okay. Ignorance is bliss. I don't know what. When you say they're resin, I go, what's that mean?
Yeah, but no, they look glorious. They look lovely. The Deathclaw, Swan the Super Mutant, things like that. Robots, you can be a whole team of robots,
That's
which is
awesome.
quite
Or
interesting.
Mr. Handy robots.
Mr. Handies.
Love
and
it.
Gutsy.
Yeah.
Can I help you, sir? Can I kill you, sir?
The Assaultrons and things like that. But then you've also the latest expansion to it is the Nuka World expansion, and it is for anyone who's played Fallout 4. You are playing as a gang of raiders trying to take on other gangs of raiders for control of Nuka World.
Which is the DLC for Fallout 4. That makes sense. Yeah.
And you can buy all the terrain and things like that. But yeah, I think the most interesting thing about the miniatures system is that it is run alongside the RPG.
That's kind of
which is
cool.
quite an interesting mix of D&D and Warhammer to a degree.
Yeah, I saw there was a when they brought out the Dragonlance D&D game, the RPG game. They brought out a massive box set with that idea that you could play the battles
I remember
of the
this.
Dragonlance game as the battles, which is an entire evening in itself and looks glorious.
It reminds me similarly of the new Lego set they brought out for D&D.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a massive, great big tavern with
You
big
can play
dragon,
with it.
but it comes with an adventure.
Yeah,
so you
comes with
can
rules and
you can
adventure.
play a story based around the Lego set and things, which is quite interesting.
Blending of worlds is fine for me. Like the idea of multiple game systems. We've discussed this with Warhammer in the past. Have a crusade, do some kill team.
It's one
to
thing
do
I
miniature
wish
battles in that crusade. Pretty cool.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's one thing I wish Warhammer would do a bit more because they have their own RPG system. They have their own.
They do.
So. And it's a miniatures-based game, so to be if you could combine that,
it
that
would
would be
add-
quite interesting. But they do things like Warhammer Quest and Hero Quest, which
Yeah.
is what it was built off in the first
Yes.
place, sort of thing. So I guess that kind of has been around in the past. Maybe it's just not so popular.
It's one of those things that I've always, and we'll probably come to it, but the thing that I've having more weight in a tabletop battle game, war game. There you go. I used the right word. Playing wargaming is fun for funsies' sake. Playing wargaming that impacts this thing over here, like having the story arc that goes on, and actually the battle. Your story gets to a point where you're going to have a war, and you know the war's coming. So you then have an evening where it's just bloody war. But that matters, and therefore how the dice roll, how you strategize on the table impacts the story you're going back to the next week.
I couldn't be more with you. I love the idea of doing something.
It would be like that blow my brain, because if you just turn up for the fight, it matters that you win.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a lot more invested.
You're a lot more invested.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool.
Which is
I love that blend.
anyway. Sorry, I was starting to for my homework.
Yeah, I mean that was my homework. It looks really fun.
Yeah,
looks
it does look cool.
And give it a Google, guys, when you get a chance. The miniatures themselves. Are
I've watched.
beautiful.
I must be honest. I might have cheated and done a bit of that too. I had to look. I've watched.
I'm sure you did.
YouTube games of it. Looks cool.
Yeah.
Lovely paint jobs that the
cool.
actual team that did it had done. Wonderful paint jobs.
I'd like to shout out to Kev, who when he was listening to the podcast, shouted Boston as loud as possible when we couldn't
When we
figure
were
out
stumbling
where
over
the
the-
hell.
Yeah, we bad, aren't we?
And he just that was quite funny. So thanks,
Kev.
thanks Kev. Appreciate that. And also thanks for recognising us shouting out Waterworld, because no one else talks about Waterworld.
They should. It's a great film.
No, it isn't. It's a film. It's entertaining.
I will die on this hill, Adam.
Snubbed at the Oscars, Kevin Costner, for that one.
I will die on this hill.
It's Dennis Hopper's least psychotic role.
It's why he's good. Dennis Hopper is good.
It's the reason it's
Yeah.
good is Dennis Hopper.
I think
Nothing to
you'll
do with the
find-
gills.
I think you'll find Dennis Hopper came into his own when he played King Koopa in the Super Mario Brothers live-action film starring Bob Hoskins.
I will not die on that.
we'll ignore his classic 60s movies and 70s movies. Homework, we did it. See,
Hooray.
so hooray! We're gonna overrun this podcast in a good way. It's
I
gonna
think
be
we probably
extra.
will,
It's
yeah.
fine. Before
we get into the meat.
Before we get to the meat, a
sandwich.
couple of things before we get to the meat. Jokes aside and genuinely aside, it's all the waffle. We really appreciate people shouting out to us about stuff they want to talk about.
Oh, God, yeah.
This episode has actually been requested by a listener. If you've got things you want us to talk about, let us know. Whichever social it's on, and likes and the subscribes and that are fun, but also affect how things come through to us and the algorithms, all that nonsense, which you hear in every podcast you listen to. But from an audience interaction, which is what we're most interested in, people have fed back and told me, and told us through the stuff. So if you want to, at the end of every Spotify podcast is a Q&A. Please fill it in. That'd be really helpful because it's relevant to the episodes. And or if it's you're listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube, fill it in the comments. Or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We will feedback. So this is a direct link to. So thanks for those that have. Thanks, Kevin, as we said, for the rescue on Boston. Let us know. Do you want to do your Hobbits or the allegedly?
Allegedly. I hear allegedly Adam won a game of Warhammer.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly did. So
Allegedly.
Allegedly, well, I can dispose of those allegedlys because it is true. Gork and Mork's truth.
I was there.
You were there. You have a witness and everything.
I bore witness to this.
Indeed.
Witness me!
So, there's a local game shop has started a crusade, and for those of you who aren't Warhammer players,
I was going to say of Warhammer.
yeah, it's a 40k narrative campaign where you sign up to the crusade, you build a 1,000-point list of an army, and then you take that army to fight other people, as you would with a normal standard game of Warhammer, but over the time your units gain experience based on what they kill and things like that, and you vie for control over planets, and there's this whole narrative thing. Think of it as sort of a strange love child of Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons.
Basically,
mixed together.
Basically.
So it gives it a bit more of an RPG element. Oh my god, it's so much fun. It's so much fun, and it's one of the reasons why that when Jace was pitching me to get into Warhammer a couple of years back, and was saying we could do a crusade, we just need a few more friends and stuff. I had no idea what he was talking about. I've now sort of like taken the baton and run with it and run past Jace and gone, right, I'm signing up because the local game shop has recently opened. They've only been open about 6 months or so. They were like, we're starting one up. Who wants to get involved? I joined their Discord. I got involved. Went up, played a couple of tester games, started it, and we've done second week of it so far. And yeah, I look forward to it every week. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so much fun. Everyone in the shop is really friendly. Everyone's really helpful. We're all talking to each other and stuff. It's really nice. I don't mind if you bring people along. So first week, Jace came along with me to see it and see it in action, and is chomping at the bit to get your models finished so you can get involved.
Almost.
Yeah. And then this week, which I lost unfortunately, but I brought Adam with me.
Sorry, I'm not the reason he lost. For context, I stood and watched and
moving my miniatures,
nudging them 6 inches back,
pushing them away.
Yeah, no, I wanted. Jake offered me some money. Jake was go playing. He just slipped me 10 quid and was like, no. It was genuine. It was good fun to see the bands in the shop, the volume in the shop. I mean, it was just non-stop. It wasn't quiet. It was boisterous and loud in a good way. It's a good vibe.
Great atmosphere.
Really good vibe. Really friendly people.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and we're continuing on with that. So that is my allegedly.
Allegedly, I might be brave enough. Adam asked me on the way out as we walked home, would you be interested? And I went, no! But only out of shitting a brick and worried I'd be rubbish. And so I've calmed down. I was really tired that night when I got home. Thanks to the girl that nearly ran us over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm interested to bring my sisters into the fold, and my allegedly is I might have pre-ordered my codex this morning.
Good
so man. I can crack on and start planning and start painting and start building. And
what's lovely about that, Adam, is that I have all your crusade rules specifically for sisters in the back of your codex, so you'll have a bit more of an incentive to.
No, I do want to do it. It's purely confidence. I remember the first game of D&D I played properly. And the first other RPGs I played properly, and it was like, I don't, but you just have to get on, don't you? You just have to
get on the horse.
Yeah, so I just need to get on the horse. Do you have an allegedly, sir?
I don't, no. No, I don't.
Well,
I know.
That's put a stop to that then.
Sorry about that.
Allegedly, he doesn't. No, I didn't. I was going to have allegedly. I just added.
I'm the allegedly guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the, and I just tagged on that I'm going to join in because I do want to join in. Hobbit Corner.
Yes.
Hobby Corner. We need a little jingle for Hobby Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Copyright infringements, not good.
Alex, if you don't mind.
A little jingle, not the Leonard Nimoy Bilbo Baggins song, which is a joy to behold, and I love it dearly.
That's a field trip, isn't it?
It is.
Hobbit Corner. What have you
been up to?
Hobby-wise, nothing, and I can't really say why for certain reasons.
Legal reasons.
Why I've been doing nothing recently. It's nothing illegal. Don't panic, audience.
He lost all his fingers in a tragic resin accident.
I just am holding off on a lot of hobbying for a specific reason, but that will come to light in the future. But so I've replaced that with a different kind of hobby, and that is eating vast amounts of humble pie.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, you
As
have.
I have now put roughly 120 hours into Fallout 76 since
Yes.
we last spoke.
Yes. Last episode, I feel you said that's a shit game. I'll find the quote, but you went, it's rubbish. It was awful.
It was, and I will stand by that.
Oh, it was.
did at
I know
launch.
it was. I
I
haven't
was there
gone
at
back.
launch. You were there at launch. You were there at
I
launch.
was.
It was atrocious.
I bought the poster on my landing and then took it down.
There you go. I then got invited back with the Wastelanders part, where they added NPCs in, and by my children who had just discovered it, and it was okay. It got a bit better, but not really where I wanted it to be. And then, because of the conversation we had, I had this vast amount of time off recently. It's like, why not? Let's give it a go. And it's phenomenal. It's everything it needed to have been at the beginning, and luckily it's still got a good player base. So, 120 hours later, level 150 something.
Are we thanking the show?
Completely finished all the
do you
main
think,
stories.
Do you think people have gone back because of the show?
I think. Oh yeah.
Is that why there's a player
Steam's
base?
player
or-
base is
As we said in the last episode, the installations or sales of Fallout 4 since the show have gone up like 7,500.
Oh, yeah,
And
no,
did-
that's-
So when it was rubbish, because it was,
Yes, it was.
did they still have their fan base that thought it was glorious, or has it got, or do you
You
not
had
know?
some diehards, and God bless them because they kept the game going.
I mean,
they still played
yeah.
it enough for Bethesda to bother fixing something.
Because you know that there's always going to be diehards. I remember playing for about 5 minutes, 2 nights realistically, the online like PvP on Bioshock, and thinking, who the hell plays this really?
Yeah.
But they were there and they were high level and they were clearly committed to this universe, and that's what matters. It might be a rubbish game, so I'm wondering whether with Fallout it was the same, or whether actually more people have gone back because they've improved it. We'll never know.
The show definitely brought most people back for sure.
To at least look at it and
And
go,
I think when they came back and looked at it, they were like, "Wow, this is what it needed to be," which is exactly what I did. And I was like, "I now want to experience this properly," and have. And I'll just very quickly chuck in.
No.
It has got a beautiful community. The players that play that game, especially the veterans, wonderful people. Stupidly helpful, give so much stuff away for free, always patient. I mean, I've been learning how to do the events, the dailies, all these other things, and not once have I had anyone get pissy or annoyed with me. Most of the time, they're pretty chilled out, and they're like, "Yeah, man, you need to be here. Follow me, I'll show you what to do." And it's like, this is cracking.
Nice.
It's really, really good. It's a really nice community. Very, very happy with it. I'm on PlayStation, so the servers, I don't know if Xbox servers or PC servers are slightly more antagonistic, but the PlayStation servers are wonderful.
I think one of the reasons why it has become popular again, in addition to the show and things like that, it is the most recent Fallout game.
It
So
is.
someone who's never seen Fallout before, or just coming off the back of watching a television show, what is this world sort of thing, will immediately look to the most recent
Yeah,
iteration
Which is
of it.
76.
But B, if you own an Xbox,
Or a PlayStation.
it's
free.
Yeah, and you have the Game Pass, you just jump in. So it's a lot more accessible than it was
Yeah.
when we first played it, because I remember buying it on disc,
Yeah.
and things when it first came out, and then being
And it
disappointed
wasn't-
because
yeah.
it was so
Well, this was the
expensive.
other thing, yeah. I was just scrolling through the PlayStation thingy, the game, their version of Game Pass, and was just like, "Oh, it's on there for free. Why not? What's the worst thing?
I'm
can
paying
happen?"
for the subscription.
I
I
play
might
for
as well.
half an hour and go, "Yeah, it's as bad as I remember."
Yeah, can I have that half hour back, please? It's the worst case scenario. Absolutely.
Exactly. So. Cool. Yeah, that's
Cool.
my Hobbit Corner.
A Hobbit Corner, sir.
So mine is all 40k based again. So as part of joining this crusade, it became quite apparent to me that I've probably got more painted miniatures than anyone else in the crusade, which is lovely. But it also means that it's good for everyone else, because it means that there's no sort of I have to, like for you guys, for example, who are starting new armies and things like that. You're not sort of pressured to be like, I need to paint 1 million units before I can get involved. No one's got a full painted army. But it's given me a little bit of a challenge to be like, every week I want to have a bit more
Something
painted.
new, tainted. Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily finished, but a bit more painted each time. So there's a bit of a progression that
Well,
I can see when I get my guys out on the table.
That'll be really interesting, won't it, as you go and as we play. I'm going to say we, because I'm going to
Good.
do it. There you go. It's on the record. To see how many people do that as the armies
and I've
progress.
seen
As you get
progress
to the,
from just the
from
2
just
weeks
the
I've
2
been
weeks.
there. Yeah, because there's a fella who joined, bless him, he just basically bought a couple of combat patrols, so the bigger boxes, stuck them all together. They're all grey, got involved first week, got involved and had a game, that sort of thing. This week he came back with the same army, but they're all black now because he's primed them. So
It's a step in the right direction.
Step forward sort of
Absolutely.
thing. So yeah, I am literally trying to set aside one evening a week now to dedicate to completing a bit more on my army before the next game.
Nice.
So that's my
Good,
Hobbit Corner.
good,
Hobbit Corner.
good. My Hobbit Corner, It should have been painting. It hasn't been painting. My Hobbit Corner since we last recorded, I have done 2 things. One is we are drawing our Witchlight campaign to an end. Because dear friends of mine, Alex and Esther, are emigrating, and we've been playing online because it's so sporadic and our games are very short when we play them. Very short. Partly because my sister plays and she's not in this country, and the time difference means she's early start and we finish early for her, but also we just play less. But I'm rambling. Unsurprisingly, the campaign's coming to an end because they're emigrating to Australia. So I want to finish it before they go, and they're going in August. So we've got about, don't listen Alex and Esther, we've got about 3-4 episodes left. And it's finally they've been trying to rescue their friend that was kidnapped, and they finally found them. Like they're in the room with him there, disaster struck. But yeah, so that's been really fun. So prepping for that. We also, as a farewell for them, they came down for the weekend. And another group was the Red Hand Gang, who are playing Red Hand Gang 2, Electric Boogaloo, which we're playing Hellboy, the RPG. It's our friend, same amalgamation of different people, but again as a farewell in person to Alex and Esther. And we played another one shot of that, which was fun to do because a lot of the games I play I run, whereas this one I got to play as Gerald, who works in personnel for the BPRD and is basically the equivalent of their bard, but he's really into the occult, covered in ink and very stabby. But he likes to, like, when someone kills someone, he brings out a form and fills it in because he likes the idea of making sure it's done. He's the paper guy.
He's HR.
Yeah. But in this game, you are literally HR.
Yeah, true.
That is what you are.
Yeah.
So I'm the closest. If you watch the Ron Perlman film when they've got Jeffrey Tam.
Not the David Harbour one.
Not the David Harbour one. No.
That's not a film. It's a disaster. I'm just saying that was, even they think it's a disaster. To the point, sidebar, the director refused to do
They were going to do a
PR
sequel.
for it. No, he refused to do PR for it.
Oh, that's telling, isn't it?
It was very bad. No, but Jeffrey Tambor, who was basically the guy who was their boss for the Ron Perlman films.
Yeah, I remember from Arrested Development.
Yeah, absolutely from Arrested Development, and I basically is the equivalent of that. So that was that was my Hobby Corner, where it was fun, it was different, it was silly.
I've got something to tack onto the end of Hobby Corner real quick. We started our Tomb of Annihilation campaign.
You did, didn't you? Yeah, with your other friends.
My lockdown guys from Hastings, yeah. And
is that prison lockdown? Is that what we're calling them? They're your prison friends?
No, it's COVID lockdown.
Okay.
Over a sandwich.
I just thought you were all lock up together and you met in prison.
No.
This is the reputation now I'm going to build, week by week by
MC
week.
Adam.
Please don't.
There'll be, by the next episode, I'll know the closest prison to where you used to live.
Yeah.
And okay.
The old Portsmouth Gaol. But yeah, no, we started Tomb of Annihilation. Loads of fun. I had a lot more energy jumping into this time. I planned, be proud of me, gentlemen, I had planned 6 days of travel to their first sort of like quest objective. We got through 1 night of travel.
I am aghast.
Yes, indeed.
Shocked.
How long was the game?
It's like a 3-hour game.
Nice.
It's standard sort of length for us, which was it's lovely, but it's really good, and they're enjoying it.
And you're playing it how often?
Sort of once a month. We're quite loose. We sort of book the next session at the end of each one, but it's about 3-4 weeks between each one. Basically, it's just as and when everyone can get together. But yeah, it's nice. It's lots of fun.
Oh, and Hobbit Corner, a quick shout out to your wife,
Yeah.
who is putting up with
The Mad Priest.
the Mad Priest.
Sam.
We are
Reverend
playing
Samuel Jennings.
Regency Cthulhu at the moment with our Monday night. Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night.
It was Tuesday,
Monday
Tuesday,
night.
the Nerd Night. So big shout out to your wife who's coping, because we all seem, with this game particularly, we all seem to be overtired and hysterical most of the time. And I've never seen it before.
It's
but
interesting,
week
isn't
by
it?
week by week, it hasn't changed. I know we've had silly weeks before, but it's consistent.
Yeah.
So how she's coping,
I blame it on Reverend Samuel Jennings.
I do.
Don't blame it on me.
I do. So Steph, thank you very much, because
Yes,
you've
thank you,
tolerated.
Steph.
You are a hero.
You are.
I think it's a combination of mass hysteria and the subject matter we're dealing with, and then the Reverend, who is
Put
My
that in,
God!
Let's put that in the other order. I think it's the Reverend first.
Cool.
There we go. That's
That's half a podcast of
of us rambling about stuff.
You can tell we've never done it this way before.
Yeah, different. I don't care if it's longer. So this week we always set ourselves a topic for the subject matter, the bulk of the conversation, other than the random small bits. And this week was listener requested about world building and how when we're making worlds and building worlds for an RPG session, how we do it, and good ways of doing it, and bad ways of doing it, and what we like and what we don't. That was the question.
And our approaches.
Our approaches to how we do it, because I know we've all DM'd and GM'd in different ways, and I was thinking this from just a story writing point of view or a movie watching point of view, because it always accounts there. What do you look for in a story? What do you look for? What the world you're talking about, the Fallout universe, the big world, that world I like. It intrigues me. The Bioshock world I like. I'm not so fussed about up in the sky.
No one was.
But
It was cool.
But it didn't engross me.
Yeah.
Like the others do.
It's not Rapture. Yeah.
It's not Rapture. So from a world building point of view, so we wrote ourselves a bunch of stuff down to talk through. So we all come from different approaches. So tell me, gentlemen, opening statement, what is world building to you? I know, and prepare.
MC Adam, take it away.
Don't put this on me.
Do you want me to start?
I am the least experienced in this.
Okay. What is world building to me? So, I suppose the fundamental kind of response to that is, what are you trying to do? Because you can't answer that question unless you know what you're trying to do. So, what is world building? World building is the fun stuff that you're going to chuck at your group every week. And it's nice to have a basket of fun stuff to chuck at those people. And it's nice to have a target to chuck the fun stuff at. That target is your world. So, what have you painted for yourself?
Here are the toys, the sandbox is the world, the toys are the activities you're doing.
Absolutely. In a nutshell, the fun, the guys, the encounters, the NPCs, everything else, that's the shit. So where's the wall or the fan? That's the world. What are we throwing it into? Okay. Where are we getting it to splash all over the place and create something living?
Good analogy. I like this.
It's a different analogy.
The fan shitting analogy is always.
I was reaching there. But yeah, what's world building to me? It's that, but it's also, for me personally, world building is what tone and what theme am I going to set for my table? I think more than anything else. Sometimes world building is a personal project, and you might build a world. I've done this. You build a world, you never use it because it's just for you, and you think about using it one day, and then something cool and shiny comes along, and you forget you've done it. Or it is just a private thing, and you end up starting writing a book. And I know a lot of people have started to write worlds for games, and all of a sudden they're writing a novel because it's like, oh, I quite like this. Let's go deeper and deeper, and all of a sudden
I don't want someone to spoil my word. I'm going to put my own characters and go on
and
their
for
journey.
just a slight little tangent for the GMs and DMs out there that like to unintentionally, because I don't think anyone intentionally does it, be a bit more railroady. Just write a book, because actually you will find that more enjoyable in the long run, because you want the players to experience your world the way you see it happening. Write a book.
Yeah.
Don't write an open world, because your players will do things that you never expected.
Yeah.
So yeah, go write a book. You will enjoy that more. Yeah, it's tone, it's a mood, it's a theme. What are you trying to say? And your starting point, I think, is key. Where do you start your world build? Some people will sit down with one of those big bits of graph paper, will throw a bag of rice on it, and go, right, that's my continents. They'll draw around where the rice falls into piles. I've done this, it's great. Then you dump bits of rice all over the place, draw around them, and go, right, that's my island. That's that landmass. That's that mountain range. Excellent, cool. Then you wipe it off, and then you start scrawling little notes all over it, being like, right, that is upper so-and-so, and this is the eastern coast, and this is the Deadlands.
Here's a river, and here's a forest,
exactly.
and these are mountains. And
can you start that way? Of course you can. And that's great. However, be careful, because all of a sudden you are hugely overwhelmed at this A3 piece of paper that is now covered in things you need to name, need to design. No. Some people will run with that and they will love that, and that's great. All the power to them. I'm currently kind of doing that for the new world I'm designing, but I'm setting myself a bit of a challenge in that regard. Normally, I pick a theme, I pick an instance, and I run with it. I want my players to feel this emotion in this way, hopefully, in this place. How do I achieve that?
Which is interesting, because from your that will work whether you're building a world or you're building your version of a world. So if you're playing in, what's the land called in Blades of the Dark? I've forgotten. What's the
Dustfall.
Dustfall. If you're playing your version of that city, will be different to mine, be different to Adam's. But you're building your version, you're building your world within. But that what you just described will work with your blank piece of paper, or someone said, "Here's a city."
Which is why I think it's the best way to start, because that allows you to then build from it. You aren't staring at a blank canvas and hundreds of little dotted islands or whatnot that you've hand drawn. Because I think a lot of people, when they hear world building, they go, "Oh, I've got to design a country and all the cities and towns in it." Eventually, you will, but you can do that 500 sessions in, as your players do it with you. We'll cover that later.
Yeah, or you can indeed you can start with your players in the cliche of an inn. And then then you step out the inn. That's the town. And if you spend a session in the inn doing card games and brawling, you don't need to see what's outside yet.
Of course you don't.
So you build the town, and then you build the city that's next to it, and then you build what's the relationship like between those two cities.
Exactly.
And then you build and then how do you get to here, and do they like each other, and all that kind of stuff.
But if you've set the tone and the theme first, everything falls in place. Because if your tone is the place I want my players to explore is, let's just say, Dark Souls or Bloodborne like, cool. Now I know in my head that that's what this world looks like. So it's very easy to then go, right, so there'll be this over here and there'll be something like that over there, and everyone's got this oppressive mood because everyone keeps coming back from the dead. So what does the nation feel like? What do the people feel like? If they know that that's a potential thing, how do they feel about that? Is everyone happy all the time? Probably not. There's a bit of a curse going on.
And can you use this with a group where there's a question rather than statement? So if there's a group, like when you have your session zeros and your lines and veils, and like using Bloodborne as a universe and all that kind of stuff, where it's dark and it's gritty and it's nasty, you put my wife in the middle, and she wouldn't like it.
No, of course not.
Because that's not her cup of tea.
Which is why session zero is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that vibe, like we've always said that her easy thing, I'm the 18 rated movie, she's the Disney of the U, in terms of how we like life in general. So Bloodborne wouldn't suit her, but can you use that technique to make it suitable for her?
Of course you can.
I mean, it'd be watered down.
Because all you need to do is, if you're looking for a particular tone, you don't have to go balls to the wall with it. You don't have to have gore and blood and dismemberment and torture around every single corner.
Just has to be a mood.
You can hint it.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to know as well, once you have picked a theme, you're not locked into doing that. So you could have half of this continent or half of this map or whatever it is as a Bloodborne, savage, grisly monsters and eldritch nightmares, and then on the other half of the continent be all smiles and rainbows and sunshine and happiness and, you know, and completely different flavour.
Absolutely, and the best thing about systems that we use is that swords and sorcery style, this biome, Minecraft Adam, this biome is...
MC Adam.
They're called biomes in Minecraft.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you've clearly never played it.
I've never played it.
This is brilliant.
He's pretending very well, because we know that's all he does.
Yeah, I'm really good at blocks.
You can go for that really kind of easily recognisable process of this biome is the desert land, this biome is this land, and there's a theme here, there's a theme here, there's a theme here. That's great, and I like that style of building as well. But if you want to go a bit more realistic, you can have a blend across the board. Like, as we get closer, we see a blend of culture, we see a blend of environment and creatures, and it's to each their own.
Yeah.
But as long as you know, as long as you know how long the day or night system is, as long as you know what the weather's going to be like every now and again, what the general climate is, what the general kind of is everyone poor, is everyone rich, is there magic everywhere, is there no magic, what's the technology level? As long as you know those things, the world building happens on its own after that, because players will go, so that country that so-and-so mentioned, what's the king's name? And you're going to be caught right off it because you probably haven't given him a name just yet. So then it's like, oh,
Jeff.
King Jeff the 5th. Cool. And then you go home and you go, King Jeff the 5th. Who the fuck is King Jeff the 5th? And you start writing shit.
Yeah.
Cool. Another part of my world was just built by my players. And that's my take on world building. The players should build it with you.
No, absolutely. If they ask for a venue, can we go, is there a bakery? Literally down to, if they say, I want to go to a baker's, you make a baker's up on the spot, and you may ad-lib that night, and you'll look either flabbergasted or in control, depending on your poker face. And then at the end of the session, you then absolutely go, what name did I write? Yeah. And then it's canon.
Just scratch the name down and the rest comes with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think all too often people focus when they do world building, and you get a lot of guides on world building, people focus on that arbitrary kind of building word. But it's not about the world in the sense of I've developed all 6 or 7 continents, I've developed wind paths and all this nonsense. It's about what you're selling to your players, and it's about the things that are happening, because the world involves everybody. So what are your encounters? What's the theme? What's the story? What's the adventure? What's the villain? That's all part of world building. And if you've got a rough idea what that needs to look like before you turn up, when you sit down at session 0 and you say to your players, we're going to be playing this system, or I'd like us to play this system, I've got this kind of crazy idea of it being set in these themes, and your players turn around and go, that sounds cool, let's do that. Then when you sit down for session 0, they've got a rough idea what those characters might look like in that world, and you flesh it all out together. And they do half your job for you. So it's kind of a bit like cheating. So, it's great.
So here's a brief question. So with that, do you want to try and, if you build it together, because clearly RPGs are collaborative and it's not GM versus players ever. Do you want to build anything without their knowledge as a surprise to them?
Yeah, oh god, of course you do. And you might have so many like background things, but what you need to be very, very... you need to... It helps if you know your table. I'm stumbling here because it's hard to word it properly. You need to know your table quite well if you are going to play little stunts like that, because you might end up really upsetting someone and you didn't mean to. Or you might end up going down a path that the players were never intending on being a part of, and now they're locked in a little bit because we've all played around a table and been like, but this is what the DM wants to do, so we're going to go with it. This is the theme they've set. I'm not a big fan of it, but so-and-so sat next to me really, really is. We'll all get through it together, and then you make it our own. But if you pull big, surprising stunts, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the world we've designed together, this is really cool, but I'm suddenly going to decide that the entire northern hemisphere is magic-free zone. But I never told you about that.
I know that's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's outright
No, that's not
bullshit.
what I meant, but yeah, I can see where you're going. No, I meant from a, and it's almost from a session 0 point of view, how much do you, because I've run session 0s, and this is a sidebar where you sit around a table and you plan everything together, and I've run session 0s where you do the lines of veils and shit together, but no one's met me, so no one knows what I look like until they meet me in the pub, or I stumble across them, or they're robbing someone and I stop them, and that's when they first meet me. So they've got no clue who I am, what my morals are. We haven't done our alignments or anything like that if it's D&D.
Well, alignment's bullshit.
No.
I'm
But
sorry,
anything,
but
but
get rid of
any,
them.
but and
Straight away,
just
get rid of
D&D as theory. So okay, yeah, no, absolutely. If you decide that magical continent, wherever there's snow, you can't use magic. It's bollocks.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Never surprise your players. with
Unless
something.
everyone's agreed to it.
If they've agreed to it. I mean, never take away, always give. And if you are going to take away, give an option to get it back.
Yeah.
And give a very clear and concise option to give it back. If you want to challenge your players, I've done this, if you want to challenge your players and make a part of your world that is magic free, and I have done this, let them know there's a way to fix that and give them a clear and concise pathing to get to it.
Or the alternative, I guess, would be, in that universe, that if it's a continent's magic free, how have they adapted as a nation or as a continent to solve so how can they get around it? They don't have magic, but they've got this instead.
Yeah.
And that's the way.
Absolutely.
But if they're working, if you all arrive at this universe and you kind of go, this is what it looks like, and if you built this law, if you have done the law thing first, and you warn people, out of these 5 continents, that one, they just don't have magic, and that's how it is, and they still want to play, they're aware of it. That's their choice. That's kind of the opening. This is what
Absolutely.
I'm thinking.
I mean, if you want a bullet point, just quickly, if you want a bullet point of my personal kind of guide to world building, so if anyone's listening and they're like, but they've waffled on for ages about all these different tones and themes and stuff, but I just want to know how I start, then quite literally pick a system, pick a group of mates or a group of people, or try to put together a group of people. There's lots of different applications out there for that, and we might even discuss that as a topic in the future anyway, about how to get a game.
How's the
group
table
together.
that is your table,
Yeah,
as in your, yeah.
It's quite a good title there. After you've done all those things, get an idea in your head that you're like. If you have to, take inspiration from media, from books, whatever. Get an idea in your head and go, I like that, I want to tweak it. Cool, brilliant. Change some names, put the world together, but don't go overboard. Pick a starting spot. Pick a pub, a town, a city, an adventure. Pick a villain. We'll talk about villains in another podcast.
There's been a request.
Oh, there has been.
Yes.
Oh,
Genuinely
that's
a
going
request.
to be a fun subject. Pick an end and a beginning, but completely leave the middle open everything else, and then build your world with your players. If you're really, really new to world building and the entire idea of it frightens the life out of you, you can grab a module if the system allows for them. And if not, like I said, just adapt a known thing. Just go to your players. I really like Fallout. Let's take Fallout and chat enough about it. And I want to do something to do with Fallout's world, but I don't necessarily want to use Fallout's system. I like the idea of post-apocalyptic world. Cool, take Fallout, tweak it to your heart's content, and you've done 90% of the legwork already. And if you tweak enough bits, and you let your players know that it's kind of based on this, but they're making their own pathway through it, they're not going to sit there and be like, oh, it's just ripped off Fallout all the time. It's like, no, this is our adventure. We did this bit together. So, that's my 2 cents.
MC Adam. That name is so sticky.
Oh,
it's the best one so far. It's the most complimentary.
At this stage, I'd rather go back to pretentious, but like, never mind.
I pulled it out of my ass.
Right, so world building for me is a slightly different thing because I look at it as a vehicle to get players to story beats that they remember, interactions they remember, characters they remember, encounters that sticks with them long after the game's finished. The vehicle for that is the world that they are set in. So the way I plan my games and things like that, and I'd say my main experience with running the classic RPGs, things like Dungeons and Dragons stuff, is all module based. Right? I have tried to make a 5e one at the moment, but I think I approached it in the way that Jace was mentioning earlier, and I found it far too overwhelming.
It can be, yeah.
I found it far too much. I tried to design a whole continent and all the warring factions and things like that, and it just blew my brain a bit, and I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. So my new approach to it is now, and I'm using this for my Call of Cthulhu campaign that I'm currently still building, which we'll probably play in about 4 years' time.
I look forward to it.
Excellent. Is that I pick moments of like, and Cthulhu's a really good one for this because it lends itself to it because of the vibe of it. I pick moments of horror, moments of like that will scare the shit out of my players. How do they get to that moment? And then I work backwards. So I'll be like, for example, and I'm obviously not going to give you explicit examples because hopefully these are things that we'll experience later on as a game table. But like, I'll be like, right, that's a horrible section in a mine. Okay, so where's the mine? Okay, the mine's on this. Right, the mine. How do they get to this? Okay, well, it's 1920. So you kind of like you use the knowledge that you have of the existing setting. And then work backwards from there. So you applying this to a Dungeons and Dragons format, for example, you could be like, right, so I want to use a gelatinous cube. Never used one before. I really like to use a gelatinous cube. What does a gelatinous cube do? Reading the monster manual. Okay, they usually trap sort of base creatures in dungeons. Okay, so now let's look at a dungeon, and you work backwards from there. But the nice thing about that is that if you're not too worried about the sort of overarching how that ties into the story, you just want the players to run through a dungeon and fall into a pit of a gelatinous cube, and say that classic line of the corridors are really clean. Oh, spooky. Then there's tools for that. So Dungeons and Dragons is a really good one for it because there's tables. You know, you just roll on tables to see how to build a dungeon. You know, okay, this room's got a trap, that's a door that's magic, that's that you're in there. But then from that, you've then got your first building block. So then you would go, okay, why are they in a dungeon? Okay, there's a treasure in there. What's the treasure? What would fit with the theme of this? Okay, then you look through your list and go through it and find it. Okay, what's guarding that treasure? A villain. Okay, cool. And then it kind of like one thing tends to organically lead into the next. And before you know it, you've built a lot more than you considered you had in the first place. So for me, it's working backwards. Some people work forwards and go right and do it like you said. I'm building a tavern. What's the city around that tavern like? Whereas I'm like, right, I want them to get to this point.
Mm.
You know, and then we go backwards from there. And then, okay, so if they're going to start in a tavern, they start in a tavern. You know, and that's my approach to it. So I pick moments of horror, moments of excitement, moments of like, this is a really cool thing. And then I see, right, how do we get to that point? And we mould around it to see where it's going to go. But that's my approach to it. But I'm still quite new to it. The Cthulhu thing that I'm building, I've been building for about a year, I'd say now, on and off. Not focusing my 100% attention to it, but every now and again I'll pick a nice little, okay, that's cool, yeah, that's since that. But a lot of it I take away from existing media, things that I've already seen. We all do it. And things like that. That's a really cool moment in that movie I've just watched. I'd like to do something similar to that. Where does that fit? And that's just a sort of. So these things they can take a while, but if you really want to sit down and get on with it, then there's loads of other options for that as well.
Yeah.
But that's my approach to it.
Nice. Mine is similar to both of you. My take on it is, regardless of whether it's a world I'm building or whether it's a world that I'm, like if I'm running a module, because as we said earlier, you can run the same module, we'll have 3 different varieties of the same game. If we were all to play the same module, it would appear different. So mine is about the vibe, which is what you kind of said, and the tone, because of people, and I've said it before, possibly not on the podcast, but possibly definitely with you as people, I will prep to my heart's content, not because I want to feel confident, but then I know the universe. I'll read the book, like you're saying to me with the Alien prep you're doing, you've read the book cover to cover. I've never done that, ever. But what I will do is I'll delve into this lore, and then I understand it, and then I'll go, okay, and then I'm comfortable. So when I was running in Dungeons of the Mad Mage, and I wanted to get out of the dungeon, it wasn't just because it was a dungeon crawl, it was because I wanted to surprise them and shock them, and they weren't expecting it because they knew it was a dungeon crawl, and I thought, I'm confident enough to now go homebrew, let's shift the gears a minute. So I took them to Baldur's Gate, and then I bought the Avernus book, not to run Avernus, but to get more information about Baldur's Gate, and I did research on the internet, and what does the city look like, and the 3 tiers, and the walls, and the blah blah blah. So, and it wouldn't have mattered if I had chosen my own version of what it looked like, but I went the route of Wizards in terms of the map, so the layout, and then I made my own shops, and I made my own this, and I made my own that. But once I was comfortable enough in that universe, I could do whatever the hell I wanted. So I took them to court, literally, and we had an entire session where they had the defence lawyer came and met with them, and they had to get out of court. The laws were written on the pub wall, and they came in the book. It's like, okay, well, this is what post you're given. But then once you understand the world, whatever the world is, you can sandbox the hell out of it. So it's like, okay, I'll go over here. I'm comfortable enough to go. You want to go to a baker's? Okay, well, this is the baker's, and I ended up making that man fancy the lady that worked at the pub next door. And there was a whole mini side quest where they tried to get him to hook up. Player led.
Yeah, it should always be player led.
That was the universe, and all of a sudden it fleshed out, it made it real, it made it matter. When we also in that campaign, the reason they were pulled to Baldur's Gate was that they got pulled there by Xanathar. They met Xanathar because I threw a big baddie name in for funsies, and he wanted them to do them a favour, and they didn't really have a choice, so they had to do it. To find out there was some new rival trying to come in, had to investigate the new rival. Turned out this rival was a white dragon in disguise, and the shipping that they were doing, this shipping company, was basically it was a dragon horde. But no one ever, and eventually they discovered it was a dragon. They never dealt with the dragon, they ran away. Months later they came back to the same city. It was fucked because they never dealt with the city. So there's consequences of leaving. The world moving, whether you're there or not, it's like the butterfly effect. If I don't hear the tree fall, does it happen? That kind of vibe, and I try and whatever game I'm playing, there is a consequence to you leaving stuff, and that means the world exists.
Yeah, massively.
And so when they went back to that city, they not only had to discover the issues, but there were 3 or 4 people that worked they were working for the Harpers, and they were like the equivalent, I can't think of a better analogy, it's a terrible analogy, of the SAS for the Harpers, so the elite spy squad, in effect. I gave them a name, I can't remember it, and they met 3 or 4 of them before the disaster struck, and it was literally, they didn't return to Baldur's Gate for 9 months of game play. Once we got back into the dungeon, we played the levels, we did blah 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 blah, and then eventually they went back and they met those 4 players that had been through shit, they'd been through this, they'd been through that, one of them was injured, one of them done this, and the world had evolved, whether they were there or not, people they knew. Just like if you'd met a friend in real life and you'd not seen them for 10 years and they got divorced and they remarried and they had a car accident or whatever, life had gone on without you. It's bringing that to the universe, which is all in the story. In terms of with your story beats, I'm kind of like, I delve into the universe for funsies. If it's stressful, don't do it. Like you stopped going, this isn't for me, the big worldscape, and you went, this doesn't work for my brain. But it's what works for your brain, what do you want to achieve. So I don't need to go big until I need to go big, so it's incremental.
I think it's also an experience thing as well, because like I feel like now, if I was to approach it would be a very different thing, you know, and I could look into it, because I've had several more years of experience of playing the game since then. One of the other things I wanted to just add on to your point there as well was when you put in big name characters from existing like lore that exists in things like Dungeons and Dragons, it has a really profound effect on your party. So for example, we're doing Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah.
episode 1 of Tomb of Annihilation, they're in a pub and they meet Volo.
Yeah.
Volo's got into monsters because he's in there trying to sell his book, and immediately the players are like, okay, cool, I know what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of helps bring that to life, and that's part of world building too. They could be bit parts,
Cameos.
Yeah, but and I don't know if there's one point when we were running Ice Spire Peak and I was big into Critical Role, for example, and I was thinking what a cool thing it would be is if they just cross paths with the squad from Critical Role, just coming in the opposite direction, and then it ties that into it and things and stuff. But I don't know if you get sued for using characters.
No, I've done that. I've not used official Wizards characters. I've done legacy-based characters.
Yeah. So previous campaign characters.
Yeah, that works really well because that there's a little homage to those players that had those characters there, but it's also a little bit of like, oh, we're in the same world. Oh, the things we did. How long's it been? It's been 40 years. Oh, I did that thing. What's that? Well, you might find that out later.
And that
really grounds people.
Absolutely, but that also comes with time of playing.
Of course it does.
Existing people who have been playing the same game with you for a long time.
Yes.
And I know how much of a lovely experience it was when you were like, your character's married to, when we were running Ghost of Saltmarsh, Steph's character, my wife, was married to a previous character of mine from one of Jace's campaigns, which then tied those worlds together, which was lovely and stuff. You never met that character before, but the name came up, and me as a player
knew who that was.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, no, bringing legacy characters back is a very, because it also is very inclusive of the whole table.
Absolutely.
It isn't just you. Look, I'm shoehorning this cool thing in for a DM to be cool. It's owning the universe together because it becomes your world.
And if they're a brand new table, those legacy characters can be the big names.
They can,
from existing Blizzard stuff. You put Tasha in, you put Mordenkainen in, you put Xanathar in, Volo, any of these name title books that people have either read or heard of will go, yeah, this is D&D.
No, absolutely.
And it could work in any setting, because those kind of things, if you've got the world built together, then so quick fire, because I know we're now at over an hour. Exciting. So very, very, very quick fire. These are notes I've written that we made together. So explain to me, and I know this is yours. I know what it means, but explain to the universe. Hit the 5 senses. Go.
Yeah, I was just reading that on my notes. So the 5 senses. So you've built your world. You thought about your world. You've put it on the table, you've thrown it at your players, and your players are now walking around in it. But they're not treating it how you thought they would. They're not knackered after trudging through, 6-inch deep mud across a farmer's field. Why aren't they? Why are they all there, all happy and bright? Why aren't they knackered? I explained, I knew that this field was muddy. I told them, it's a muddy farmer's field. Cool. But didn't sell it. Part of your world is selling it. Hit those senses. That's how you sell something to someone. That's how you get someone to see what you see. I had a wonderful experience with Theatre of Mind very early on in my career as a GM, in that I had my party fighting in a massive domed circular sort of church-like, or not church, more temple-like area that they were fighting this big nasties in. And one of my players was playing a rogue and decided bearing in mind D&D's fights are quite slow, an hour into this big combat, it was a big hefty combat, one of my players was like, I'm going to go and hide in the corner so I can get a sneak attack in. I was like, corner? And he went, yeah, one of the pillars in the corner. And I was like, dude, you're in a circular room. And he was like, am I? Oh, I thought we were in a square with pillars. So I never even mentioned pillars. But and the lad he will laugh thinking about this, because I'm sure when he listens to this he will remember this moment. But it taught me a very valuable lesson. I did say it was a domed room, but I didn't sell it. I didn't say there were those wonderful cathedral, like stained glass windows over the top and blazing sunlight coming through and all of this stuff. I just said, it's a domed room. And he instantly forgot. It was such a throwaway thing. He's instantly just been like, well, rooms have corners. And it was important for the fight that they didn't. So use your 5 senses. That farmer's field, for example. And you want your players to be a bit, not necessarily pissed off, but you want them to look like they've trudged across a really nasty field. And this is great because this gives the characters that like to stay clean a chance to roleplay walking across a field. Might sound silly to you, but I have players that find that
Prestidigitation!
Exactly. Or do they cast levitate? and use a spell slot so they don't get messy. I've got players over the years that would happily do that, and that adds to all the fluff.
If you use a spell slot just to do that, and then
I love it when people use stuff like that outside of any mechanical advantage, just because that's
what their character would do.
Absolutely. So how do you sell that muddy field? Well, instantly, what does it smell like? Straight away, they walk up to this field. They've been asked to see Farmer Dave about some missing apples. Let's just say. Right, it's really
Farmer
basic.
Dave and King Jeff.
Yeah, about some missing apples in his field. Okay, cool. And you want to explain to your party that the only way to get to Farmer Dave is across his muddy field, because the current path is had wagons up and down it for ages. There's big, really thick wheel treads from the wagons and horse hooves and all that stuff, and it is 3-4 inches deep with thick, horrible mud. And how do you sell it to your players? Well, firstly, hit those sensors. It smells like this. It smells like manure around here. It smells like fetid, rotten, if you're selling that vibe, or it's that real earthy, peaty smell. Cool. What does it sound like? That slopping sound as your feet get half stuck coming through the mud as you're walking down the
Buzzing of flies and the rustle of corn in the breeze and such.
Exactly. What can you see? What can you hear? And all of a sudden, that muddy field is a thing now. And everyone around the table has their own version of it in their mind, but they all know what you're trying to sell. And then you get that player that goes, I am not taking my purple velvet robe through that. And all of a sudden...
Carry me, barbarian.
Yeah, a simple journey becomes colourful and flavourful, because all of a sudden, exactly that, the wizard or the whoever in the party has decided that they're not walking through that. Probably the elf. No offence to elven players, but it's probably the elf. Will literally get picked up by someone, or cast a spell, or make sure that they prestidigitate every single step, so that when they get there, they are perfectly clean. But it took them half an hour across FIP. And that adds so much flavour to the game, because it's not all about throwing dice and killing shit. It's about what the players remember when they go to the pub in real life, or have dinner with friends in real life. Those moments they discuss. It's not always the fights that you sit and talk about around the table with your mates after a game. It's normally the really stupid, silly bits that sell the world for you. So, there you go.
We still talk about, there was a moment that's akin to that, just to give it a bit more emphasis, but there was a scene when one of the games we were playing where there was a traffic jam, and we couldn't get through a gate that we needed to get through as a party. So I was the bard, so I was like, well, I'm going to use this opportunity with a captive audience to do some busking. Our wizard, on the other hand, was like enraged that there was, like, why is there a traffic jam?
Yeah.
Well, all the wagons are different. Went into a bit more detail about it. I'm going to standardise the wagon wheel then.
Literally, I'm going to standardise the wheel.
Then this won't happen anymore. And he sort of like took it upon himself to be like, well, this is ridiculous. Why are there not, like, mandatory size highways and things like that? And he looked into it a bit more and was like, well, I'm going to sack this adventuring thing off, I think, and I'm going to make a killing in the public transportation industry.
Absolutely. And that's all because I said that there was a traffic jam getting in.
Love it.
And you sell it with that crowd of really angry people, and the wizard was literally like, well, this is just not acceptable. It's fantastic. I love it. So yeah, that's what I mean by the 5 senses. And that doesn't have to be for the world all the time, but it should be for moments you want the players to realise.
Those key pointed moments.
You walk through a door, this smell hits you, you hear these things, you see this very quickly in the darkness, the shadows blur.
Yeah. And they are a lot more for those people who play online. I mean, obviously there's things like tabletop audio, which I never got on with as a GM, because you're playing so ad-libbing and quick, it slows down the realism, then putting the rain noise on or whatever. I mean, they're good, don't get me wrong.
They can be good.
But
yeah.
I have no issue with, and then you have to preset them and you go, when it's raining, I'm going to do this. And obviously if you watch a stream, just you immerse with this stream deck
he
where
just presses a button or
and
whatever.
then lights
He's got
change
a team
music.
of staff
Yeah.
to do it round the
but
corner.
and other streams that do it as well, so it's not just them, they just sprang to mind. But that's all well and good if you have, but also there's nothing wrong with narrating. Now, my brain instantly went cow shit.
Yeah.
And that's my smell. It's like that's, or if you're doing a spring summery one, you can smell the dandelions, you can smell the roses,
absolutely.
you can literally smell the
roses. You can
roses.
see the bunnies hopping in and out of their holes in the field. And that sells your world better, in my personal opinion, than the hours of scroll keeping and bookkeeping and drawing of a planet that you did. That sells your world.
Yeah.
I think it's important as well to note that those sort of moments and those sort of descriptive parts of it, as little as they can be, not only do they help with that building, but they breathe life into it a bit more as well. So, when it rains, you can describe that, the tinking of raindrops on armor, you know, as the paladin strides through the rain and stuff, and then your players immediately think of, and if you're me, you immediately think of Theoden standing
Lord of the Rings, straight
so
away.
it begins,
Yeah,
you know,
straight away.
and
That
sound of the,
ding, ding.
you know, and all that sort of stuff. But those sort of things, and then that ties people into it a bit more and makes it a bit more livable.
No, definitely. It's so important. It's so important.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Anything else?
Oh, I don't know. It's a difficult subject, isn't it? Because you could talk about world building for hours.
I
We'll
always
do
feel
world
like
building
whenever
too.
we talk about anything RPG related, and well, anything, any of our podcasts so far, we scratch the surface of these.
Yeah, it's a bit of an iceberg, isn't it?
We shall come back. If you've been listening to this and you've got specific more questions, more like can Adam speak English, other questions that we might be able to answer for you, or we'll do a world building part 2.
Yeah.
And come back to it. We'll always come back to subject matters. If you want to delve deeper, how did you get on? I tried this technique that you suggested and it worked. I didn't get on with this technique because it wasn't for me. Let us know. Thank you.
It's such an awkward ending. I love it.
Wow.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chase.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Next time, well, secrets.
Yes.
Secrets.
That's the title, Secrets.
Secrets.
Yeah.
How to keep secrets from your players. No.
And we will feedback on our
Hobbit Corners.
and
Crusade updates. And
painting updates.
Yeah.
All that kind of malarkey.
We'll try and get it slim.
Yeah.
No, I have no issue.
No,
but
I
actually
like it. It's because
it's new. It's expanding the universe. It's world
we're
building.
well building our podcast.
Oh!
Hey.
That's a little bit meta, but I like it.
Hey.
Jason only just copes his brain. It's like
Yeah,
that bit in
it's
Scanners where his head blew up.
Slightly popped.
Thank you very much. Do the like and subscribe thing just for giggles, and do feedback and comment for us. And in the meantime, have a good week. Look after yourselves, and bye.
Bye.
The appropriate length gap for the giggle.